All right, calling to order the City of Tonganoxie City Council meeting for March 2nd, 2026. Ms. Huntington, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Wilkie?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon is absent. Mayor Freeze is absent. Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Ms. Gruby?
Here.
Mr. Dale?
Here.
All right, let's all say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Now it's time to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on February 17th. If there's no discussion, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Jake.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Rebecca. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. The consent agenda, which allows us to do the city's business and pay the bills. You've all had a chance to review that in this agenda packet. Is there any comments on that, or if not, I will look for a motion.
I appreciate the changed format with the cents, the 0 zeros.
We were going to tease you and add extra decimals, but we went the other way.
Third of
I
assent.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. All right, old business. There is no old business listed tonight, and nobody signed up to speak
No
before,
signups.
before the deadline today at 1 p.m. So we'll move on to new business. Staff is going to talk about this, which has been a reoccurring fun event for the community, and they'll break it down a little bit, and then we will see if there's any discussion on this routine matter.
Great, thank you. So this item with draft ordinance number 1546 allows consumption and sale of alcohol at the Tonganoxie Public Library at an event, ticketed sales access event on April 9th of this year. Like the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, this is an event that's been held now, I believe, since 2019 or 2020. So a number of years. The police department and other public safety departments in the city are notified of the event, debriefed afterwards. There have never been any concerns or complaints received from neighbors or other members of the community or those departments to report to you all. This, because it is public property and typically does not permit alcohol consumption or sale, this ordinance temporarily rescinds those rules for a permitted period of time. There is a new winery being involved this year, Crescent Moon Winery, and I think this is their first year participating, but we don't have any concerns about that either. So if council approves the draft ordinance, staff will help the applicant complete their state licensing required for an event like this. But happy to take any questions if you have them.
Any comments or concerns from council? If not, I'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 1546, allowing the consumption of alcohol on certain public property for limited time and purpose pursuant to KSA 41-719 D11E for the Wine and Bingo Friends of the Library fundraiser event with limited attendance to be held at the Tonganoxie Public Library
All right, thank you.
on April 9th, 2026, from 6 to 8:30 p.m.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. The next is for, item B is for a special use permit that has been approved by our planning commission unanimously. We'll just get a little bit of background on this before we proceed.
And we'll ask our planning clerk, Lindsay Huntington, to give a quick recap for staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. This item is ordinance 1547. It is a renewal of a special use permit for Rachel Rhodes Daycare. She's located at 406 East 6th Street. It was last renewed in 2016. And her current property zoning does allow for home-based daycares to take place there with the special use permit in place. All of the documents were submitted for our February 5th Planning Commission meeting, and we had a public hearing at that time. There was no one who showed up to speak for or against this item. And the Planning Commission was in favor of this approval for the special use permit. It was recommended to continue or extend this out for a 5-year period this time rather than the normal 2-year period, which we've had in the past for special use permits. And then we had a 14-day protest period, which was required, and we did not have any petitions filed during that time. So staff does recommend approval for this item, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or concerns for this ongoing daycare? All right, if not, I would look for a motion.
I make a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve draft ordinance 1547, approving a special use permit for Rachel Rhodes Daycare, generally located at 408 East 6th Street.
All right, a second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you all. Items C and D on the agenda are linked, and they're related to the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission and City Council working together. Dan, would you like to elaborate on these?
Certainly. I'll give a quick introduction for both items, and if there are any questions, they are very closely aligned, so be happy to take them at any time. The first item is a resolution authorizing accepting the conveyance of real property, and the real property being included in the special warranty deed, which was prepared by the city attorney and shared with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission for their agreement, are 2 parcels that people would generally consider Chieftain Park. There's a small parcel near the 2440 Highway Bridge behind the Community National Bank. That's its separate parcel because of its history of being sold or donated as a park from, I believe, the bank many years ago. And then the remainder of Chieftain Park, which extends from the city's Magnatech Park all the way to the bank at the end of the parking lot on the northern end. So it's a significant size park property, as you are all aware. As you're also aware, with our recently approved interlocal agreement with the Rec Commission, the city will be taking ownership of the property. That's the first action and resolution for your consideration tonight. And then entering into a management agreement, also drafted by our city attorney and reviewed with the Rec Commission, that will allow them, in a similar sense to how the library property is owned by the city but operated by the library and their staff. The same would be true in this case with the Rec Commission. The management agreement outlines roles and responsibilities very clearly. It talks about holding insurance. It talks about how to handle disputes or concerns and commonly, encountered areas with a landowner and a tenant or an operator in this case. It also highlights the cooperation that's intended to occur with the interlocal agreement terms that both boards, the Rec Commission and the City Council, and then the school district affirmed earlier at the beginning of this project. Once these 2 actions are completed, we do have additional steps. Financing for the construction contract that's part of that interlocal agreement needs to be secured, and we hope to have that as soon as March 16th meeting. It may be the next meeting, depending on schedules. And then finally, agreeing to a city contract with the recommended contractor to design and build the park improvements that were contemplated. So a couple more steps to go, but this is a significant accomplishment to be at this point tonight, and we're glad to have the Rec Commission's support. They're not here to address it tonight, but they did share. I believe they have one very minor word change that they'd like to recommend from their attorney to our city attorney. So we may ask if Anna, if the motion could be made to approve it in substantially the form, if I have the words right, Anna, just so we make sure we give our.
The resolution provides that.
It has that already, okay. And
Which
so we'll,
allows us to make some changes afterward if necessary, and if there were anything substantial, of course, we would bring that back to you.
I believe it's a non-substantial edit they're asking for, so. Happy to take any questions you have, though.
Any questions? as we move this project forward. All right, then I would look for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 032601, a resolution approving and authorizing acceptance of the conveyance of certain real property from the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission to the city of Tonganoxie, Kansas.
Second.
Okay, it's been approved and seconded. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you all. All right. Now, item D, it's related, and I have to say that Anna, reading this agreement, I felt like I had to go to law school to understand it, but good job. It's very detailed.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize approval of resolution 032602, approving and authorizing entering into a management agreement for Chieftain Park with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission.
Second.
all right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this secondary matter? Nope, all right. Then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Anyone opposed? Then that has passed unanimously. Thank you very much for the attention. Looking forward to this process wrapping up and moving forward so the community can enjoy the new playground at Chieftain Park. All right. Now, these two are also related to an ongoing improvement in our community, E and F. Dan, would you like to give us the details?
Sure, I'll give a brief introduction. I'd like to recognize that Jason Hoskinson with BG Consultants is here tonight. He's the project manager for this project. You may be familiar with him from previous discussions. He's working on several key projects for the city at this time. We also have Kent Heskett, our Public Works Director, who I'm sure would love to talk to you about this as well. So this project, as you're all familiar with, started with a bid process last year, completed for Front Street improvements. Front Street runs from Ridge Street to Tonganoxie Drive. It's the street on the map depicted on the screens, labeled Front Street, that parallels 2440 Highway. Because of the bid outcomes that came in substantially lower than our engineering estimates before the bid process, as well as because of the history of this project prioritizing improvements to both Front and Ridge Street previously, for the same reasons that Front Street was prioritized, a lack of stormwater infrastructure or poor infrastructure, entire lack of pedestrian sidewalks, and also just general street condition base issues underlaying the road surface that repetitively cause the city to incur more maintenance with less effect over time. Because of that prioritization and the bid outcomes, the City Council previously authorized staff to work with the contractor to see what bid unit prices could be extended at those favorable rates and grow the scope of the project and grow the impact of the project and still live within the budget of the project. I might ask Jason to kind of highlight some of the outcomes of that, but you can see in the agenda statement some renderings of some preliminary design that's still subject to change, and I'll let him maybe highlight that. The one thing I do want to highlight is the change order for your consideration tonight, prepared by resolution, would be the first change order for the project. It would add about close to 191,000 in cost, which is a significant cost, but you can see on the map, the last map and this one, how much of an area is being impacted for that. So again, this is really critical because of that low unit pricing that the city received for the
And
bids.
even though it's an increase over the initial bid, is still coming in under what had been budgeted for this project initially,
With this change order, that's
Just-
correct. Yes.
just to clarify for everybody.
Okay. Good evening. Yeah, Jason Hoskinson, engineer with BG Consultants. And like Dan said, you got some really competitive pricing from Kansas Heavy on this. So this was a good opportunity to potentially add this into the project. We did talk to the contractor about feasibility, workability, timelines, cost extensions, on what it would take to include this in the project. Right now, what we've got shown in concept would be new curb and gutter, sidewalks and driveways with some storm sewer improvements, basically from the highway down to the car wash, along with sidewalk. There's, on the storm sewer side of things, we'd try to put some inlets on the east side to catch a lot of that water that's coming off the parking lot from the grocery store. Right now, that currently flows right across Ridge Street and right down Ridge Street. So the storm sewer we've got in the design, I'm sorry, down Front Street. The storm sewer that we have in the Front Street base scope of work is big enough to handle that. We just add some inlets to collect it before it's flowing across the street. We've also been looking at sidewalk alignment. I'd like to actually try to get that sidewalk down to, was it Jolie Street, is that right? Or Joel Street, if we can. We've talked about some ideas to do that. Right now, Ridge Street's wider than your standard collector street that the city has. It's about 36 feet wide. So we've talked about maybe reducing that to 31 feet, which matches your city standard, and ironically enough, that's 5 feet, which is what we need for a sidewalk. So we're gonna explore some ideas if you wanna pursue adding this into the project to try to minimize that impact, reduce overall costs as much as possible. But the contractor's on board with all of this. If this is something the council wants to pursue, the change order, I'd view that as kind of a not to exceed amount. We would use the unit pricing and measure the quantities. This is what we think is gonna be the maximum. And hopefully through some engineering, value engineering and putting the design together, we can come in a little under that. I don't think it's gonna be $50,000 under that, but, somewhere in the neighborhood of 190,000 is what I'd expect is the maximum. And they're asking for 30 extra days, so basically an extra month on the contract to get this built, so. With that, I will turn it back to the council and see if you got any questions for me.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could just add one, in case folks are looking at this, in terms of timing, I think the thought process is still to address Front Street first, get that project done, then move to Ridge, because there's already gonna be limited access for the businesses here. And so there's no intent to close both roads down for construction, so there will still be some sequencing involved there.
That is a good point. They'll have to start on Front Street first, because a lot of what needs to be done on Ridge Street has to flow into Front Street, so they need Front Street done. And then access would be from, either from the east or the west coming in, so.
So are we just gonna see where we are with the budget as it goes along to see how far we get the sidewalk to Joel Street? Or is that something that you're asking for us to include? Or is it
well-
something that we don't know yet?
We don't quite know yet, partly because of the next agenda item, going through the design aspect to figure out exactly where those dollars and cents shake out. I think though with some of the narrowing of the street a little bit and reduction of some of the work there, I think even with that, we're still not gonna exceed this amount with a change. So, to get the sidewalk down to Joel Street.
Okay, would you say the last part again? So you believe that we won't exceed the previously budgeted amount if we extend the sidewalk down to Joel's Street?
Correct.
It would add on to the amount of this project,
Well,
the total right,
so-
as of right now, but,
So the amount that you see before you tonight is what we're thinking is probably a maximum, and through some value engineering and narrowing the street, we think we're gonna be able to come in under that and allow that to extend the sidewalk down to Joel Street.
okay.
Sorry, the first time I said that was probably a little confusing.
No, that's helpful. That's an excellent question. Matthew?
Yeah, I just think it would be a good idea. Just lots of houses there or apartments, you know, little kids and stuff. When the city put in a sidewalk for our street, suddenly it was used every day by lots and lots of people. So more sidewalks around the grocery store just makes a lot of sense to me for people. So
I might add, this also would complete a sidewalk connection between the trail and over to Joel Street, so
right,
it would connect everything in.
yeah. It's a little precarious watching people walk around there, so.
For sure. So the first step is to authorize the change order initially to do the plan that we see here, correct? Dan?
That's correct. Item
E,
E, the resolution approves the change order with Kansas Heavy Construction LLC. Item F is the related amendment, and that's to our original contract with BG Consultants for design engineering. That was a cost not to exceed $75,000. What this item F would consider a motion to do is to add $10,000 to that, to a not to exceed level of $85,000.
Okay.
And we do have budget authority in our stormwater fund to help with those costs.
All right, so we're on track. All right, so for item E, I would be looking for a motion, unless there's any further discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 032603, approving and authorizing change order number 1 to the construction contract with Kansas Heavy Construction LLC for Front Street and Ridge Street Improvements Project.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion has passed. Moving on to F.
I will also, you don't have any additional presentation, do you?
We do not.
Yeah, I'll also make a motion to approve supplemental agreement number 1 to the agreement for professional services contract with BG Consultants, Inc. for the Front Street and Ridge Street Improvements Project dated June 17, 2025.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that has also passed. Thank you very much. We look forward to this project commencing and then ending. Because I know
ready
the
for that.
businesses along there will be very eager, and it'll be a huge improvement for walkability in that area. I agree. All right, next up is item G. Tonganoxie Days is asking for some additional funds for their event this year. We want to hear a little bit more about that.
Great. I'll do a quick introduction just to remind the city council of some things. I was expecting someone from the group to be here tonight, so you could choose to wait or you could choose to take an action tonight at the end of that discussion. So the attached letter was submitted by Joanna Ibis with the Tonganoxie Business Association. You saw it in the packet. It outlined the plans for the June, I think 13th this year, 2026 Tongi Days event. It outlined a little bit of the programming, and that group, the committee that is largely comprised of members of the Business Association, have been working very hard already this year on plans for the event. They're also excited at the new stage being constructed later this spring in Gallagher Park as a music opportunity to place within that new facility in the park. One thing that you will note in their letter is a request for additional funds in excess of what was budgeted last summer for the event. For many years now, the city has budgeted $7,500 to support the Tongi Days event. Those numbers really have been stagnant since the year after the sesquicentennial, so that would be, I think, 2018. It was an elevated number in 2018 and a much more elevated number in the sesquicentennial celebration. Those numbers also were augmented by business sponsorships that used to be a big part of funding the event. Since then, the city has budgeted, again, $7,500 a year, paid for out of our general fund, and the mayor's tree lighting event had traditionally been $2,500 a year. That was raised, actually approved to be raised this year to a higher amount of $5,000. So there has been an increase in funding for that other event. It hadn't been yet planned for this event. Should the city council want to approve a greater budget amount higher than that $7,500, we would ask that we have some direction about what funding source to pay that from. The city has a couple funds besides the general fund that could be alternatives, one of which is the transient guest tax fund. We currently collect a small amount of transient guest tax per year from Airbnbs or similar short-term rental programs that require tax remittance to the state that the city then collects a portion of. Many other communities in our county and in our area use a portion of that funding, which is required to be used for tourism or economic development activities, for event support or funding for events that grab, an audience or bring people to their community. So that would be one alternative. There is budget authority in the fund, so you wouldn't have to amend the legal budget to accommodate the request. But just wanted to give you that information, that if you are in support of adding the additional $2,500, that's where we would recommend as staff that the selection be made from, for where it would be paid.
Is the other $7,500 coming from the general fund?
It would still,
Currently.
yes, that would be our recommendation, since it's budgeted from that source.
So the first piece was approved for this year's budget, but the additional 2,500, this is the World Cup, and we are so close to not only Kansas City, but the meeting I attended talking about the financial impact and the social impact of the World Cup. It is a 3-hour radius, and we have teams having base camps in Lawrence and at the Legends. And so just the Airbnb impact in our zip code that will come from people renting out their homes during the World Cup. I mean, there are games before and after all around the time of our community festival. I think $2,500 extra to help them improve, enhance our community's festival is a great investment. I mean, on the whole scheme of things. Between the games, if you don't have tickets to a certain game, if you're here as part of one of the base camp teams, you're gonna be looking for some things to do, get a slice of American life if you're not from this country. And I think we'd be well poised to do that, and it's a relatively small investment.
What, do we use the transient tax for anything ever?
We've not. In many years, we've a couple times looked at very small amounts for, I believe it's like registration for economic development, related activities, or event attendance fees. But generally, we've built that fund balance. I forget from our last budget report where it was, and I can get that information for you real quickly.
I'd kind of be interested in knowing not just the balance, but kind of what an average,
Year or
average
income and-
increase is,
Okay.
to see just how viable this would be in the future as well. Because costs are not gonna go down.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
correct,
I'm
yes.
interpreting it as going forward every year, we're increasing our support to 10,000.
Yeah.
So this is like a one-time ask, where should it come from? But in the budgeting process, we should look to increase it to $10,000, be it from the general fund or to, it just seems like from an accounting standpoint to have it come from multiple places every year doesn't make sense, but.
Yeah. So we currently have a fund balance of just under 14,800. We typically collect about $2,000 a year, sometimes less. It kind of varies based on rental activities.
Very good, well,
Well, for this year, definitely because of the World Cup, and maybe for future years, we can ask them to get some sponsorships. I know in years past, they have not charged for a fee to be a vendor. I don't know if that's still the case, but if they're not charging a fee to be a vendor there, maybe charge a nominal fee, $25 to be a vendor at a town's festival is not unreasonable. They could do a few things to help financially if they're not already doing those things. But for this year, I think considering the proximity to the World Cup, I would tend to think it would be a good investment, and then ask them to look at other ways of funding, and then also look at this fund to help with this, because it's definitely something for the community, but it brings in people from other towns too. Those
are
are
we
just some
looking,
ideas.
are we looking for a motion to authorize the total amount of 10,000 or to increase the funding by 2,500 to 10,000?
A motion would suffice to, in the amount of, and then if you'd like to recommend 10,000, say it in that way.
I would make a motion to authorize distribution of funding support for the 2026 Tongi Days event in the amount of 10,000, representing an increase of 2,500, with 7,500 funded from the general fund and 2,500 funded out of the transient tax.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Well stated for your motion, Jake. I appreciate that. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, motion carries. Let's move on to a donation for the Genesis School for their annual fundraiser. And I see we have our representative here.
Yeah, I'll do a quick introduction. So for those of you newer to the city council, Genesis Christian School has submitted a request and been approved for many years now for a donation of a season pass, a group season pass in previous years. And this year, one group season pass and two youth swimming lessons for auction or for supporting as a prize at their annual fundraiser event called Night of Nights. And Denise Bixby's here tonight, and we're glad she's here to answer any questions you might have or to offer any comments. But in the past, this item has been approved by the city council. The cash value of these requests would be about $180 for the group season pass and $80 for two swim lesson credits. So a total value of about $260 total. Those are relatively small figures in the operations of the water park on the revenue side. And if you have any other questions about that, we can assist with that. But offer if you have any questions or comments for Denise.
Hello, thank you for your support in the past, and I can take a question if you want to know, but we'll just be auctioning the group pass off in our live auction, and the other things would probably go for our silent auction. And so,
Yep.
you know, we have kids, all sorts of kids.
Has this been a popular item in the past?
Definitely, there are people who fight for the group pass, yes.
All right. I can imagine it would be, especially if you have a lot
We
of
have
children.
Lots
Yeah.
of families, and so, yes.
I'll make a motion to waive the $180 Tonganoxie Water Park resident group season pass fee and waive the $80 cost of 2 public swim lesson sessions and approve donation of the items to the Genesis Christian Academy for use at an upcoming silent auction in 2026.
Thank you, I appreciate it. We'd love to see you guys at our event. It's on the 17th of April. Come over, have some food, have a great time.
Great. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
All right. Now, something having to do with our clean water. Kent, you've been here a long time. Now's your highlight.
Oh, man. All right. Well, a quick introduction. So for those of you that have been on the city council a few years, you may remember back in, I think it was 2021, the city was required to repair an element of our sewer wastewater treatment plant called a bar screen. This is a very critical piece of equipment that screens out debris, wipes, other large impediments that would cause problems later in the treatment process of our sanitary sewer inflow to the plant. The vendor we used back at that time was Huber Technologies, and this was a vendor that came out and basically disassembled and reassembled with new improvements the bar screen and piping associated with that improvement. They did a great job. Our utilities superintendent and our public works director, Ken Heskett, were both impressed with that work. And now the element next to the bar screen, called the wash press, is in need of a similar level of care. So this quoted price is again from the same vendor. They're a sole source procurement without competitive bids because, again, they are sort of unique in their ability to come out and do that fabrication work on site. And they also just advance the completion of the equipment right next to what's being updated here. So for those reasons, we do recommend support of that sole source procurement. We had a couple pictures in the agenda statement. I think they do just a little bit, don't do justice to the issues we're having there, and the reason this is being brought to you it's not a budgeted replacement, but our sewer operations budget does have capital funding every year for break-fix items, and this certainly qualifies. As we mentioned before, it's a critical element, and in the event it's not working correctly, there's cleanup and other steps and maintenance that are not good. So I don't know if I said that 100% correctly, but I'm sure Kent would correct me if I was wrong.
We get the picture.
Yep, there's a picture. So with that, there is a motion in the packet, and if you have any questions for staff, please let us know.
Are there any questions about this urgent item for sanitation system for the community?
I don't like even thinking about it.
I know, if not,
I like clean water.
we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff to retain the services of Huber Technology to complete a rebuild of the wash press at the wastewater treatment plant for an amount not to exceed $10,751.74.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kent, run home and order it right now. All right, thank you for all that, and that brings us to item J. Oh, this might have to do with Kent as well. This was already approved for this year's budget, and it looks like there are 2 bids to do some maintenance on our water park slides.
That's right. So our project for 2026, anticipated last summer, was for rehab or maintenance to the elevated water slides. There are 2 of them at our water park facility. We budgeted up to $20,000 from the city's general fund for this as a part of the effort in our financial strategy to draw down slightly the fund balance levels in the general fund from their currently exceeding fund balance targets. So it's a little abnormal that we would fund improvements at our water park of a capital nature like this from the general fund, but that was the plan and the budget developed for this year. As you can see, there are 2 quotes. We did solicit a third and didn't receive it back. Our utility superintendent, Josh Suddeth, manages the maintenance at the water park, and he did review both of these quotes as he collected them. He does recommend acceptance of the low bid from Safe Slide. You can see it included in your packet for reference. What they'll be doing is essentially repairing fiberglass elements in the ride path, recocking seams as needed, and polishing and waxing the interior of the slides. With that, we did also look at elements of a more complete repaint and regel coat of the whole slides. However, the costs for those were in multiples of the cost of this effort, and so it wasn't deemed either affordable or the right action to move forward with at this time. The facility does have annual maintenance costs like this. For those of you new to the city council, last year we repainted everything underwater in the facility, and that cost I think has risen to close to $40,000, something that used to be a much more affordable level than that. So the
So
cost
next year, we're all gonna do it.
That's right. The materials alone are up there. So staff don't have any concerns with the bids, and if we do approve this tonight, we'd have time to order the work before the pools fill up in May. So ready to move ahead.
Any questions?
I
Just
think-
the thought of not doing this makes me nervous, this fiberglass.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think one other component just to add is this shouldn't be viewed as just simply a repair. This will actually extend the life of what is there now. So, you know, it's always kind of a best guess by the professionals, but it should buy us at least a couple of years before we have to tackle the painting like Dan mentioned, which adds a comma and possibly a 0, or God forbid if we need to replace the structures themselves. So, just to point of clarification, it's not just simply a repair, it will actually extend it as well for a couple of years.
And it's one of the most loved amenities for our community is our pool. All right,
We'll all be going down that slide a lot this summer
there you go.
to,
There's always a
money
request for
worth it.
volunteers to be the first to try it. So I'm not taking your statement as volunteering unless you did.
I'll
And then Ken
volunteer.
heard you, and we'll put your name on the list.
an active service to the community. I will make a motion for the approval of this proposal for elevated fiberglass water slides maintenance from Dale Cooper LLC, not to exceed the amount of $16,408.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. That is wonderful. Thank you all for your hard work tonight. Now we are on to just a few other wrap-up items. Dan, you've provided us with something awesome.
Yes, so you've got printed copies at the dais of the 2026 budget book. This is a transparency tool and a public education tool. It's a 44-page document that tries to boil down in a concise, if you can call a 44-page document that, an understandable manner what the city's priorities are for funding in 2026 and in future years' plans. It outlines departmental budgets. It outlines budgets by fund, which, as you all know, we have 17 budgeted funds and a variety of restrictions on use of those dollars. It also explains a nexus between the spending and priorities of spending and the strategic plan, which is an element, it's a best practice, both by organizations like GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, and other organizations that support strong management and fiscal communications and fiscal, strong fiscal practices. We aren't required by law to have a city budget book, but it is, again, a best practice, and we are hoping to make some improvements to it that we can get it submitted for award consideration like other communities choose to. And pretty pictures always help, graphs help, so we're working to make some additional improvements to make it even more functional. We do put this online on the city's website. You can search for it by budget book. If you go to the finance page, you can find links. We host it on a site called Flipping Book that lets people click through like they're reading a book online. And it also gives us a few statistics about users and the time they spend and the amount of links they click, things like that. So it's kind of interesting to see when people choose to engage with it, the city's newsletters and other communications we put online. Happy to take any questions you have, but I think it turned out pretty well this year.
I like the format, it's excellent. All right, on to the city attorney agenda.
No items.
All right. For my items, I just wanted to remind people, as the weather hopefully gets better in the next few weeks, that the city has 2 bike repair stations, one on 4th Street in the Pocket Park and one on Main Street at the skate park. So make sure to take advantage of those if you all are bike riders and let other people know. City council agenda. Our mayor is absent tonight, and then I'll look to Jake.
Yes, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You said that so quickly. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good job.
Opposed?
See you next time. All right, then you